Welcome to lesson number 37, Spreadsheet Validation. In this lesson, we will be covering spreadsheets, the regulation that applies to them, the approach to validation of spreadsheets, their design, the installation qualification, OQ, PQ, and ongoing monitoring and revalidation. Use of spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are widely used in the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in laboratories and by validation personnel to calculate results. If spreadsheets are to be used for GMP critical data, it is important that they be appropriately validated. Use of spreadsheets for GMP data is an obvious target for regulators as it can be often overlooked by companies. GMP spreadsheets. A spreadsheet can be both used to record GMP data and also to manipulate it. Unless the spreadsheet is controlled by another electronic document management system, the paper printout should be treated as the raw data. So, for example, that means in terms of how it's reviewed and signed off and its documentation control. The regulations that apply to spreadsheets include 21 CFR Part 11, Annex 11 and GAMP, amongst other regulatory requirements. The main criteria is that it must have controls to ensure data integrity and a full audit trail. Spreadsheets fall into three categories for GAMP, Category 3, 4 and 5 of the GAMP software categories, and it should be validated accordingly. Approach to spreadsheet validation. Often companies will define their basic documentation requirements and methodology in a single document. This may be known as the Spreadsheet Validation Master Plan, or it could be included in your normal validation master plan. This document can be referred to for all individual spreadsheet validation projects and will not need to be reviewed or approved for each validation effort. We define the requirements for each sheet or chart and then focus our testing on verifying these requirements. A heavy emphasis is placed on defining and testing formula and also on the security for each sheet by limiting the parts of each sheet that the users are allowed to edit. Design specification. General guidance for design and validation of in-house spreadsheets and other numerical calculation programs includes the following considerations. Lock all cells of a spreadsheet except those needed by the user to input data. Make spreadsheets read-only with password protection so that only authorized users can alter the spreadsheet. Design the spreadsheet so that data outside acceptable conditions is rejected. For example, reject non-numerical inputs. The URS or the functional specification should consider the following. The intended purpose of the spreadsheet. Is it to calculate results, sort data, identify limits, generate charts, etc.? The formula that will be included in the application. A description of any macros that are to be used. A description of data formats, so most companies will have defined the way that they expect their date format to be written, day, month, year, in double digits usually, to prevent any confusion. What numerical rounding will be in place for this particular spreadsheet. A description of column or row arrangements and any sorting that may be required. A statement defining the electronic storage for the executed spreadsheets or the resulting reports that come from it. A description of security measures, what levels of access, data encryption or password protection are in place. And the version of Excel or the application to be used. A list of all sheets and charts in the workbook, so how many pages does each workbook have? What users should be allowed to enter into the sheet? A description of any reports or charts that will need to be generated. What cells represent the output or the final calculation of the sheet? This may also refer to a chart. For each chart, define properties like the title, axis labels and units, and the data sets that are used to create the chart. Installation qualification. Installation qualification IQ testing may check the following. That the correct version of Excel was used. That the file is in a location where users can access it. The version number controlling the system is in place. The master copy has been stored with the validation protocol. The spreadsheet can only be used electronically from a master copy in a defined location. Passwords or protected access procedures have been established. Operational qualification. Operational qualification, OQ, testing verifies formulas, macros, and also tests the security features. It verifies the levels of access that are allowed. It verifies that all non-input cells are locked to prevent changes either intentionally or inadvertently. It verifies correct formula have been used. It verifies that password protection on non-data entry cells is in place. It formats standards such as the inclusion of spreadsheet IDs, version numbers, the validation ID, and/or date, etc. Standard number of decimal points to be used has been confirmed. The standard rules for rounding has been set. The standard date formats as per the site requirements is in place. Standard colors for data entry cells and calculated cells is in place if required. For some data sheets, you might want to show a green for passing result and red for outside of the limits. Standard file naming conventions are in place and have been followed. And there are standard error messages, if applicable. Performance qualification. OQ and PQ can be completed together for a less complicated spreadsheet or application. The following parameters may be tested during PQ. Verify the reliability of the spreadsheet by comparing it with known results from known data. Ensure that the spreadsheet can handle unforeseen data input needs. Precision of the sheet is to be checked by manually verifying the spreadsheet calculations and by entering data at extreme values as well as expected values to assess the ruggedness of the spreadsheet. Test the spreadsheet by entering nonsensical data, for example, alphabetical inputs or control sequences. Verify correct storage of executed spreadsheets, including their naming structure and their location. Reports or charts generated to check for accuracy and for correct properties. Ongoing monitoring and revalidation. The spreadsheet should have a mechanism to control its use so that only the most current version of the spreadsheet may be accessed by users. Changes to that spreadsheet should then be controlled by a relevant change control procedure. An audit trail of previous versions of the spreadsheet should be maintained with approvals and history of changes, and this must be readily available for inspection on request. Revalidation should be performed in line with site SOPs as required. Ongoing verification of the accuracy of spreadsheets is strongly advised. References and further reading. Some interesting articles on the use and validation of spreadsheets. Over to you. What regulations apply to validation of GMP spreadsheets? What considerations would you make when developing a URS for a spreadsheet? Thank you very much for your time and attention.